Hey everyone, so I've gotten a lot of questions about if I can make an update to my Double Grass 2.0 team, so I decided to make a few adjustments for Season 6, and let's see how it did. I ran my first 25 matches of Season 6 with the Double Grass 2.0 team, and overall it kicked me off to a really great start. So for the adjustments I made on the team, I decided to run Shadow Bone on a little Marowak instead of Shadow Ball. Shadow Bone wasn't around when I first introduced this team, but it really helps out a lot of matchups, specifically like Deoxys Defense, and because it costs less energy than Shadow Ball, you don't need to bait as much with Bone Club. And the other adjustment I made to the team was I made my Shift Tree a Shadow Shift Tree instead of the regular one. Shadow variant is a huge upgrade for Shift Tree, and I'll talk a little bit more about why that's the case in my matches, but one key matchup it really gains in is against Umbreon. And the Ferrothorn I kept exactly the same. As I explained in my previous video, Flash Cannon is much better because you're very weak to Altaria without it, and it also gives you coverage against backline grass. If you haven't seen the first video on the Double Grass 2.0 team yet, I highly recommend you check out that first video as well, so I'll link that down below. Getting into the matchups right here, so my first lead I go against in this season is against a Gyarados. Very uncommon in Great League, however quite strong of a lead against my team. So I swap straight away to Shift Tree. We both get some lag here, and then here we go into the Umbreon matchup. I'm expecting this to be probably a foul play, but the thing is I'm already pretty low on health, so I kind of have to shield everything at this point. But like I mentioned, Shift Tree with the Shadow variant is much better against Umbreon. It's just be able to hit pretty much as hard as you need to, as opposed to the regular one doesn't hit nearly as hard, so you need probably an extra Leaf Blade when you usually don't. Alright, so my opponent double shields and actually swaps to Altaria. Whew. This is terrible for a little Marowak too, to be honest. But the thing is, it's got a slightly better matchup against Altaria than probably Gyarados. So I weaken it a little bit, and then I'm going to shield the move from Altaria. I'm not too worried about the charge moves from Gyarados because I should be able to resist most of it, or its Crunch. Crunch would definitely hurt, but I'm just hoping that they don't get to it in time. And then I decided to farm up a little extra energy on this Umbreon. I know I could tank the foul place, and I just Bullet Seeded it down all the way. This is a little bit scary if it's Crunch, but fortunately it's just an Aqua Tail. And so I have the Power Whip to one-shot the Gyarados from there. Oh, actually, no, not even one-shot. It is only neutral, so luckily I do have two. Yeah, that's actually a pretty tough situation to start off on, but luckily I was able to play around it. Alright, so again, another upgrade for Alolan Marowak is that Shadow Bone is pretty handy against the Drifblim matchup, because before you kind of had to bait with Bone Club and then try to land a Shadow Ball. But now Shadow Bone is much faster to charge to, and it still does quite a bit of damage to Drifblim, so you could just go straight Shadow Bone. I recommend actually swapping out eventually. The only reason I didn't swap out is because they actually baited me with the Ice Beam or Icy Wind, which means that I was actually a little bit scared to swap out to my Shift Tree and get hit by Icy Wind right away. Had they gone Shadow Ball right off the bat, I probably would have switched straight to Shift Tree. And the switch to Shift Tree would have been really helpful because you could draw out the Altaria, but fortunately my whole team's really weak to Altaria, so it wouldn't have to really matter if I drew it out or not. If it was a Skarmory, it'd be a different story. But I tried to pretty much farm it down with Bullet Seeds. My opponent does do a quick swap to Azumarill, and then but fortunately I'm in a very good spot. I could tank another Ice Beam pretty comfortably, and so I think I probably just farm up a little bit more energy here. Just in case the Altaria does have close to Sky Attack ready. I don't think so, but just want to be safe. Yeah, and the Bullet Seed was enough to actually take it out. Alright, so Azumarill lead, obviously a bad lead for this team, but having two grass in the back gives it some play. Shadow Shift Tree, even regular Shift Tree, you pretty much have to shield the Ice Beam, so for the most part, Shadow Shift Tree doesn't really lose out in that specific scenario. And then they come in with Shadow Hitmonchan. This is really going to hurt. Unfortunately here, it's actually going to hurt my Alolan Marowak quite a bit too, even though it doesn't have any super effective moves. As you can see, a neutral Thunder Punch right there still does a ton of damage, and I really can't risk wasting my shields here, so I just go straight for the Shadow Bone. Unfortunately we CMP tie a little bit, but I don't think the extra energy would help much against the Azu anyway. And then they come in with the Hypno, so the only thing I'm really hoping for at this point is that they're not running Fire Punch, and they're running Fire Punch. So at this point, there's really not much play here. Hypno is also quite tanky too, so I need probably about 3 Power Whips to take out this Hypno, probably 2. But I needed 3 because they had a shield. And at this point, it's not really much play. I do survive one Fire Punch, but as you can see, I'm pretty much one shot away from a fast move from being taken out. I quickly swap to my low Marowak, can't get to Shadow Bone in time, and they finish me off. So, one of my losses from early on in these sets, but it's all good. They had very good lineups to my Pokemon. They pretty much had a counter for me all the way throughout, so in those situations, you know, you just gotta take the L's. It is what it is. So kind of strange, they swapped in a Hypno into my Shiftry because it's weak to Shiftry, but to be fair, their whole lineup is kind of weak to Shiftry. And I didn't really showcase it there, but if I shielded, you'll see how much foul play actually does to Melmetal. But I think they might have misclicked. Melmetal is definitely the better option in that specific scenario. Yeah, so I'm going to shield the Blizzard right here. This should one-shot the Whiscash, and they're going to come in, probably try to superpower me, but Melmetal is quite glassy in Great League, and so even this resisted Power Whip will do quite a bit of damage. I think we'll be able to see it here unless they double up on superpowers. Let's see if they do or don't. Yeah, they do. So that's fine. Being double debuffed makes it a lot easier for a low Marowak, and I have a move ready. I probably should have just gone Bone Club, but I decided to go Shadow Bone just to be safe. Perrserker, definitely not a super common pick. The good thing about this early 5 sets in the season is that I saw quite a bit of variety, and none of them were really like super offhand Pokemon that you would almost never see, besides maybe the Gyarados. But that Gyarados actually proved to be quite difficult for my team, so I was glad I did run into that to see how it is. But yeah, so my opponent swaps to Azu right here. Perrserker definitely struggles a bit against a low Marowak, just because Alola America is doing that super effective fast move damage and has Bone Club as well. Luckily, they actually bring in their Scrafty here, which is great because I really don't want to have to deal with Scrafty with my Shiftry. So now I'm just going to go Shadow Bone. Shadow Bone is resisted, but it's just a better move in general than Bone Club. As you can see, it still does quite a bit of damage right there. And then they don't shield, and then I bring in my Shiftry. So this is kind of an interesting matchup. My opponent goes close combat, then one-shots me. If they go foul play, it'd be a little different. They actually have Iron Head, kind of interesting. But foul play does neutral damage and does hit quite hard. And does take out Perrserker right there. Alright, so another Azu lead. I'm just going in sequential order of me ranking up, so it's not cut in a specific way like my usual videos, but so you'll see maybe some repeats like another Azu. Shadow Gardevoir, haven't seen this in quite a while in really in any league, but especially Great League. It used to be kind of a staple until a lot of the Shadow Razor Leaf first came out. But my opponent actually double shields here. I get a bunch of energy. I'm expecting the Az to come back in, so I'm just quickly swapping the Ferrothorn right here. And then they actually have their own Ferrothorn. So this is not a terrible matchup for me, but they still have that Azu, so I'm just hoping they're not running Flash Cannon. And they're not. So this is why we run Flash Cannon. If you need to be convinced, Flash Cannon is much better against grass coverage. As you can see here, I don't need to shield anything. The Thunders, they just don't do enough, as you can see. And I think, I don't even shield the Power Whip. Yeah, right here. It's going to be fine. I probably could have gone Power Whip there, to be honest, but I guess I'll just be extra safe. And now we go for another Power Whip. And then I come in with my Marowak and throw the Shadow Bone. And take it out, and still with the shield. Alright, so Mantine, also not a super common pick in Open Great League, but again, very strong against this team, kind of like the Gyarados from earlier, so glad to see kind of how this team plays out against it. So, Razor Leaf Tropius definitely struggles a bit against Shiftry, just because it's just doing resistance damage, and Shiftry's foul plays do hurt. So let's see if my opponent shields or not. So they do double shield, and at this point I'm like, alright, that's fine. I don't mind being down a shield. I just get some energy on my Marowak. Don't need to shield any of these moves. And then they actually lock themselves into a matchup with my Ferrothorn. They probably really just didn't want to get farmed down, but this is not great for my opponent right here, because they're in a losing matchup right here. These Bubble Beams will be resisted, and Ice Beam does do a decent amount of damage, but I'm just going to go straight Power Whip every time. Thunder would be kind of helpful here, but it's okay. How many Mantines do you really see, right? And also, you still do plenty fine with just Power Whip. So at this point, my Ferrothorn's out. I'm just quickly trying to swap to my Marowak, and then I farm down the Tropius. Let's see what they have in the back. Ends up being a Galarian Stunfisk. This is usually not the best matchup, but Shadow Bone again is pretty solid. That's just about the right amount of damage you need, and then still having shield left. Should probably be able to Fire Spin down or just Bone Club. Yep, Fire Spin down. Alright, this is a matchup that's greatly improved with Shadow Bone. Before, this is kind of a bait dependent matchup on a little Marowak side, but also you kind of have to read the baits as Deoxys Defense as well, so it's just not really fun either way. But now you can just go straight Shadow Bone, they don't shield, and just go straight Bone Club after that. And my opponent does not shield. Very good spot to be in. I spend 1 shield, but I have energy on my little Marowak, pretty much still almost near full health, and still have switch advantage, just being down 1 shield. Again, quickly swap to Shiftry. I probably usually would let that go, but something's making me think that maybe they have like a Psychic in the back they really don't want the Shiftry to see. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I'm going to grab their second shield here anyway, and then now I just come in with Ferrothorn and farm down and see what they have. Usually I'll just let that Ice Beam go though and come in with my own Ferrothorn. Another reason why shielding right there was helpful is because, so it's going to be a G-Fisk, which is kind of solid against my team, but it has to land the Earthquake against the Ferrothorn. And also getting the defense drop right there is huge. Oh yeah, so it actually ends up taking out because of the defense drop. But another reason why I shielded the Shiftry there is because if I just let my Shiftry go right there, I come in with my Ferrothorn, and they come in, they could lock me into a third Pokemon for quite a bit of time, right? But because I was able to wear that on clock with using shields and force them to use shields, I was able to kind of swap straight to Marowak when they came in with their Marowak, or with their G-Fisk. Alright, Bastiodon with double Razor Leafer. In this specific case, there's a Razor Leaf, a Shadow Razor Leaf Grotto. And Shiftry does really great because it just outpaces a lot of mons to their moves. And then now I have good alignment right here against the Bastiodon. Obviously, this is still not really a winning matchup. And my opponent right here actually tries to catch a move on the Cherrim, which works out perfectly. I'm going to charge up extra energy right here. The thing is, I don't really have to worry about any of these charge moves from Cherrim, so I'm just going to fast move down, get a bunch of energy. I have energy on my Ferrothorn as well, so I know that I just need to kind of tag team this Bastiodon, because nothing on my team really beats Bastiodon in a straight one-on-one fight, especially at a shield disadvantage, but I know I have energy on both my mons, so that should be fine. And I quickly swap to my Ferrothorn, catch him off guard, and throw the Power Whip. And that'll seal the deal. Alright, going against my original Double Grass with Skarmory team. I've played this matchup a few times already. I played it in the past as well. I figured Shadow Ball would help here a lot. But I don't know. Maybe if I land the Shadow Ball, I could just farm down much easier. So the play here is you really want to catch a foul play on your Shiftry. But if you don't catch it, you're in a world of trouble because they're ahead by quite a bit on energy. The biggest issue with facing this team is the opposing Shiftry. It just you know, charges up super quick. Like I said, I've played this matchup many times in the past, and it's actually a lot tougher than it seems. You would think that having a low Marowak lead into a Skarmory would be an easy win, but it really isn't. Even with Ferrothorn with Flash Cannon, Meganium is just so bulky, and having access to Earthquake makes it a solid contender against Ferrothorn, actually. Alright, so I end up shielding this Frenzy Plant. I'm just trying to wear down this Meganium as much as possible. I probably should have thrown that Bone Club. Oh, actually, I guess it didn't matter. I guess it didn't matter right here. So I'm quickly swapping to my Ferrothorn. I kind of panicked and threw the Power Whip, which is not enough to take it out. And maybe I should have gone for the Flash Cannon. I think that might have been the right call. And we end up simultaneously KOing. So really well played by my opponent right there. Always give a lot of respect to anyone running that line, especially Skarmory into a low Marowak. It's not easy to play, but you know, as I've mentioned in past Double Grass Skarmory videos, it is not impossible for matchup. So really well played by my opponent right there, despite me knowing pretty much all the weaknesses to that team. Alright, something I noticed is almost every Vigoroth likes to bait with Body Slam as their first move, so maybe in the future I should just never shield the first move and go from there. So yeah, this is not a great matchup right here. They get fainted out and I lock myself in with Shiftry and they swap into Beedrill. This is good though. I want to see this Beedrill now because then I could finish it off with my Marowak. But smart play by them to just let the foul play go. That way there's pretty much nothing for my Marowak to farm. Unfortunately, there wasn't even much I could have farmed on my Marowak just because I had so low health from the Vigoroth. But still having a shield right here is really nice because then I can just throw this neutral Power Whip and pretty much almost one-shot the Ampharos. Alright, another fighter lead. Or I guess Vigoroth isn't a fighter, it's a neutral type, but it's pseudo-fighter. But against Vigoroth, against Toxicroak and most fighters, Marowak is pretty solid. Alright. What I probably should have done right there is actually thrown a Bone Club before swapping to my Ferrothorn, because now I need to kind of commit more shields in this Bastiodon to maintain switch advantage. So that's not good. That's not good. That's probably not the best play for me because at this point I know that if they really want switch advantage, they can get it. Now the question is, how bad do they want switch advantage here? Because okay, so I guess they don't, because they're going to lock in their Toxicroak right here. This is actually works out really great for me. And let's see what they have in their third, because it's possible that they don't really have any true counters for Alolan Marowak besides that Bastiodon, and so they're trying to preserve the Bastiodon with a little health to take out the Alolan Marowak. And let's see, they're probably gonna come with Bastiodon right here. Yep, makes sense. Luckily I do get to another Bone Club, so this is pretty nice. And then they let it go. Ends up being a Grotto. So this makes sense because Grotto doesn't have any play against Alolan Marowak either. So if I took out the Bastiodon right then and there, it would have been over. But yeah, fortunately for me, I still have both my grass Pokemon left. I can tag team this Grotto and take it out right there. Alright, Galvantula. Great lead to see. Super weak to fire. However, Galvantula is kind of a heavy hitter. Its discharge actually hurts Alolan Marowak quite a bit, so definitely something that you unfortunately still need to shield. The big reason why I'm shielding here is because I don't want to lose switch if they just double shield. So again, I'm forced to shield here, but this isn't too bad. We both go down shields, and I have energy ready. Again, I'm going to pivot right away to my Shift Tree right here. This is perfect. Draw out the Skarmory. The Skarmory pretty much has to throw energy if it doesn't want to die, but it does get outpaced again. And yeah, shout out Shift Tree. Just closing out matchups where regular Shift Tree probably wouldn't. 2 foul plays and you're taking out a Skarmory, which is pretty wild because it's often that you'll have energy advantage. So I come in with Marowak. Try to finish it off with Bone Club. If this doesn't finish it off, it's all good. I'll absorb all the energy from Azu. But fortunately, it was able to work and didn't need the Ferrothorn for that one. Alright, Hypno lead. Fantastic lead. Similar to Deoxys Defense. Having Shadow Bone is pretty nice because you don't really have to bait. And I was a little bit worried this is going to be a Shadow Ball. Ends up not being a Shadow Ball. So I'm just trying to farm down here. Hopefully this is not a Shadow Ball because then this is all a bunch of wasted energy. I end up shielding again anyway. Kind of weird that they went Fire Punch for the first one. If I didn't shield that, they would have been in a really bad spot. Shadow Machamp. This is a little bit scary, to be honest, because it still has a shield. So if it shields this Marowak and doesn't let me take it out, I'm in a lot of trouble. Yeah, I'm in a lot of trouble here. My only win con right there is hoping they don't shield. But honestly, I went for a bait anyway, so I wouldn't have gone to Shadow Bone in time. And yeah, this Machamp is going to tear me apart. So backline Machamp, very scary to deal with. Even despite my favorable lead right there, I still did a ton of work against my team. Alright, Marowak against Dewgong right here. It's a pretty neutralish matchup. Really depends on if they land the Water Pulse or not. So for this one, it didn't go for Water Pulse, so I'm going to swap straight to Shift Tree. I swapped to Shift Tree anyway, just because I could draw any counters that Marowak might need to take out. And as you can see right here, this works out perfectly, because if I stayed in with Marowak and just left with barely any health left, this Mantine will sweep my entire backline. But now my opponent has no shields, so I could go straight for Bone Club, or Shadow Bone, and pretty much almost take it out. And then my Ferrothorn should have a pretty easy path in the back end, unless they're running double fighters. My opponent does Power Punch twice for some reason. I'm going to bring in my Ferrothorn just so they don't get any extra energy off of my Marowak. And they actually let that go. Ends up being... Oh, they're out of shields, actually. That makes sense. Ends up being Altaria here. Altaria is, again, very strong against this team. I have no true counters to it. But having energy on my Marowak, I feel okay about this. And I just go straight for the Power Whip. It's not a great move, but damage is damage. I do have a shield though, so it's really nice, and then we're gonna go straight for the Shadow Bone. Bone Club definitely would be enough to get out there and able to wrap up that match. So that's the update to my Grass 2.0 team and the changes I made. Overall, it's still a very solid team. I've seen quite a few people still run it these days, so I'm glad that's been working well for people. I had a pretty solid record after 25 battles, but of course this is the beginning of seasons, so I don't expect this win percentage to stay as high as I start facing harder and harder opponents. A big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you like to see some extra strategies behind some lines, or if you'd like to learn about some lineups before I release them on YouTube, feel free to sign up for my Patreon. I'll include the link down below. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell if you want to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.